Today I'm going to answer a question from Pam Norman, who wants to know if she can cross the Simpson Desert in their multi-terrain motorhome. G'day guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Ask Steve. Today's question comes from Pam Norman, and it goes like this. Hi Steve, my question is, can you do the Simpson Desert in a multi-terrain motorhome, not going up the sandhills, just driving across? Well, Pam, thanks for the question. You haven't gone and specified specifically what sort of motorhome you've got, but I don't think it's going to make much difference one way or another. To be honest, it's going to be a challenge because you can't actually cross the Simpson Desert without going over the sandhills. They're an integral part of the whole experience, and there's no sort of shortcut around them or alternate route that's going to get you from one side of the desert to the other without actually crossing the sand dunes. The Simpson Desert's located in central Australia, right in the middle of the outback. It's like at the northern part of South Australia, the southern part of the Northern Territory, and the southwestern corner of Queensland, and you'll in fact go through all three on your crossing of the desert. Now, the Simpson Desert is one of the classic Australian four-wheel drive adventures, and it's one of those bucket list type of things that everybody wants to do. It definitely was on our bucket list for a lot of years, and we crossed it about 3 years ago. Now, one of the things that defines the Simpson Desert is the sand dunes, and driving up and across them is basically what the experience is largely all about. That's the challenge, if you like. Now, the sand dunes run north-south. There's roughly about 1,000 sand dunes from the western start of the desert to the eastern finish over near Birdsville. Now, the main track across the Simpson Desert is the French line, which is on the South Australian side, and the QAA line, which is on the Queensland side. And those two tracks connect, both running roughly from west to east, east to west. Now, the sand dunes get progressively taller as you go further east. So the biggest one, which is Big Red, is the easternmost dune, and when you start on the western side and the South Australian side, the dunes are much shallower and they just get progressively larger as you go across. There's no way to drive across the desert without going across the dunes. There's no road that goes around them or anything like that. So when making a decision about whether your multi-terrain motorhome is going to be able to do the trip, you really have to think about whether or not it's going to get over those sand dunes. Now, to be honest, I can't imagine that a motorhome is going to be able to do the trip. You really need a fairly well set up four-wheel drive with good ground clearance, plenty of power to get up and over the dunes. We did the drive 3 years ago, myself and our three daughters, and we had a fantastic trip. We took about 3 days to get across, but it's slow going, and even with a very capable 80 series Land Cruiser, there was a few dunes that we had to have several goes at to get up. That was a tough one. And we had the tyres right down, and we were trying different approach angles and all sorts of things. So a motorhome with limited ground clearance and limited power, I think you'd be struggling. Having said that, on our trip we did actually see a Unimog, an ex-Army Unimog truck, and they passed us early on day one, and we didn't see them until several days later when we were in Birdsville. And I actually had a chat to the owners of the truck, and they said they got across no worries. But a Unimog is a very, very capable off-road four-wheel drive truck, and so I'm not surprised that they got across okay. It doesn't mean that a motorhome is going to be able to do it. For anybody looking to do a Simpson Desert crossing, definitely you want a full drive. You want to travel as light as you possibly can. You need enough fuel and enough water and all the essentials, but you don't want to take any more than you can possibly avoid. The lighter it is, the easier it's going to be for you, and the less chance you've got of breaking something going wrong along the way. If you're looking to make the trip as easy as possible, go from west to east. East to west will be a little bit harder, a little bit steeper as you come up to the top of those dunes. Try and leave your trailer or your caravan at home, even if it's a very capable off-road caravan or a very capable off-road trailer. You might get across okay, but it's going to be harder. You're going to have to work harder to get up the dunes. You're going to churn up the track more. National parks ask that you don't take your trailer or your caravan. They don't prohibit it, but they highly recommend that you don't. And then there's the risk that if you break it, you're going to end up having to leave it there, You might have to get it recovered, which can cost you a fortune. And if you do abandon it because it's, it's just an old trailer, it's not worth recovering, National Parks will come out and recover it. They'll track you down, they'll send you the bill and make you pay for that recovery, and it will be thousands. So so the best bet is just to leave it behind, or if you do take it, be prepared that you're going to have to, you might need to repair it, take some spares, and make sure you've got enough grunt in the vehicle and a means of recovering the trailer. So if the trailer, if you can't get up a dune, you might need to take the vehicle off the trailer and actually pull the trailer up and over. If you've got a second vehicle, that might make things easier. So look, it's not impossible, and people do it all the time. But if you're looking for the easiest possible experience, go west to east, leave your trailer behind, travel light. Now, if you're looking for more information about planning a trip across the Simpson Desert, check out a blog post on our website called 10 Tips for Crossing the Simpson Desert, which will give you some of the sort of nuts and bolts information that you're going to need when planning your trip. There's also some other blog posts on there from our trip, which we did a few years ago, which we called South Australian Outback Adventure. It was sort of 20 days round trip out of Melbourne and up through Adelaide, through the Flinders Ranges, up across the Simpson Desert, back down the Strzelecki track, back to Melbourne again. We actually made a film series about that trip, which we called South Australian Outback Adventure, and you can find out more about that and watch it on our website. I'll include a link here or wherever it is on the screen there. So that's it, Pam. In a nutshell, I would say it's a pretty good chance that you won't be able to do the Simpson Desert in your multi-terrain motorhome. There's no way of avoiding the sand dunes. You have to cross them if you're going to drive across. So that's just a fact of life. So I'd suggest find another way of getting across, another vehicle, a well set up four-wheel drive, traveling light, not towing a trailer. And if you want to make it easy on yourself, travel west to east. Thanks for tuning in again, guys, and I will see you in the next video.